Welcome to Guitar Gallery. We've got Matthias here as well. He's quite a big Larrivee fan. And today another first for us is actually a 12-string. It's not the first Larrivee 12-string that we've had, but the previous one was actually also the L body, but the normal L-03 rosewood 12-string. This one, Steph and I went and I actually asked him to do a L-40 rosewood. And the reason, I'm not really that experienced with 12 strings, I'll be honest, but I've played on some and some of them really sound a little bit thin to me, a little bit bright. Yeah. And I thought if one can get the scallop bracing and almost that more traditional bracing to free up the top to create a little bit more bass, you may end up with a bigger sounding 12 string guitar. And that's kind of the thinking behind the selection of this guitar.
Well, you know, unfortunately I didn't ask you that before, because that's a surprise to me, but it 100% makes sense, because the first thing I realized when I play it, it's got a pleasant and a present bass response. For me, the first thing I noticed was there's enough bass, thank goodness. So that obviously makes sense. The scallop bracing makes 100% sense for that. You know, with the with 12 strings, obviously you have enough mid-range and treble, and this being a typical Larrivee, it's also fat and musical mid-ranges and trebles. What I liked about it is that with that prominent bass, it really complements the overall sound of the guitar. He's obviously agreeing.
He's inspecting the guitar.
So the overall tonal palette's got enough bass and enough body, which is obviously sometimes perceived as size and power, which you don't often get from a 12 string in general. I think it's a really good move. You know, the moon spruce gives it a lot of clarity. The rosewood gives it a lot of overtone content and complexity. And the other thing I want to mention, you know, sometimes the first thing people ask when they want to consider buying a 12 string is, if they're not used to 12 strings, they wonder, is it possible to play this? How difficult will it be to make the conversion? And it's really not a thing. It's you know, I don't play 12 strings often at all. And for the first 30 seconds, it feels a little weird. For the next 30 seconds, it kind of becomes familiar, and then you can really forget about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes on your picking hand, it can be difficult getting into, especially if you're playing finger style or finger picking, because the octave string is above the high octave string is above the low octave string. Sometimes it can be difficult to get if you're playing the bass note, to not play the high octave first. But that's a reality of 12 string guitars. However, when you play with a pick, that's not as difficult, because then you can get physically in between those two octave strings. So it's really not, in terms of playability, physical playability, this one's got a very comfortable neck. It's got the setups are beautiful, as we've seen. You know, the build quality and consistency from Larrivee is really something to brag about. It's the most consistent build guitars that I've ever seen.
I mean, if you look at the woods, I mean, as you just mentioned, it's a moon spruce top, and just look at that stuff, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
yes, Indian rosewood. I mean, it is just amazing. You can just see the quality,
the consistency. I don't think there's anyone, and not even mentioning at this price range, there's definitely no one in this price range that has the consistency of build quality and wood quality.
This is the best guitar by far at that price point, but it even competes.
I would have this conversation with the greatest confidence with anyone. Name me a brand that at this price bracket has this consistent quality. And then you can take it a step further. Their consistent build quality and the quality of woods actually compares and competes with way more expensive guitars. So, you know, big kudos to Larrivee, because their quality control and build control is on point every time. It's ridiculous.
The one thing that we just, it's so important to us is neck angle. And that's one thing about Larrivee. You know, you can get a very nice action there, but still a lot of saddle sticking out. So you get nice steep string angle or break angle over that saddle, and that obviously just helps with tone. There's no point in you know, having a amazing action, but there's no saddle left.
Exactly. And so what you want is, if you take a straight edge and you put it on top of the frets, you want the level of the frets to be at the same level of the surface of the bridge. And every time we check our guitars, because we do check the neck angles on all the instruments that we sell, every time we check a Larrivee, it's as if that straight edge just glides onto the surface of the bridge. It's actually a laughable matter. But the consistency is great. It's worth a mention. That's why we're raving about it now. But this guitar is no exception. You know, The tone woods are obviously quality, the build quality is there, the recipe, because this is also a proprietary shape, the L shape. The recipe for the tone is absolutely great. I think, not even as a 12-string player, this is a very interesting guitar for me. For me, this is one of the better 12 strings that I've ever played, and I do own one. I've owned twice. I've owned one twice. I've owned two. And
have you owned two once or two twice?
Once upon a twice. I'm sorry, but it's a great guitar, and it's got a complexity to the sound which you can just expect from a Larrivee with this typical spec. I think it just got a little bit more clarity because of the Moonspray stock, which I like. Got a little bit more punch. So it's once again it's a guitar that you have to experience. Hopefully you can hear from the clips what it sounds like, but being in its presence and feeling what it does when you do what, that's kind of why you have to come here and play it for yourself. So if you're a 12-string player, you know, come and compare this to whatever you've got in your arsenal. If you are considering playing 12 strings and you haven't yet, come play this, because this is a good example of how easy a 12-string can play and how pleasant it can sound. This is a great example.
Yeah. So I think in summary, I really want to just emphasize that point. It's really easy to play. I even found it not too difficult to do a bit of finger picking on it. The spacing is great. And then also it's got a nice big sound and enough bass, so it's not this tinny, thin 12-string guitar.
I mean, the pickup on this one is also great. I mean,
it's the award-winning LR Baggs Anthem, so it's going to sound as natural as you want. So you plug it in and there you go. So I know the 12-string players are very specific client, like the Ovation guys. You know, so. But I do think if you're into 12 strings, come check this one out. I really think it's an amazing guitar, and you'll enjoy it. But the only way to do it is to obviously play it yourself. Thank you for watching. We really appreciate it, and we hope to see you soon. Bye bye.